This is Patrick at 1CNC West, and what we're going to take a look at within this training video is the parting cycle. Now, the parting cycle is simply where we take a tool and we cut the part away from the stock. Now, to do this, we need wireframe geometry. In this example, we have our solid model showing. We don't need to look at the solid, so why don't we temporarily hide it? So first of all, I'm going to hit the letter S on the keyboard and left click. And then I'm going to hit the letter B on the keyboard, which is the shortcut for the blank command. The blank command will temporarily hide any selected geometry. And by the way, the blank command can also be accessed on the top toolbar using this button. Now, when applying the parting cycle, all you really need is just a vertical line, just like we have here. I can apply the parting operation to this line or this line, and it would work just fine, but we would have to add some additional parameters within the machining operation to make sure that the parting cycle starts way up here above the part and machines all the way down past center line. So what I recommend is creating an additional line. Let me show you how you can quickly do that. Let's head over to the command manager, go into our line command, and I'm simply going to left click the end of that line, come all the way down and left click the end of that line. When we're done, we can right hand mouse click. Now we have this line that we just created, and what we need to do now is trim it to length. We can do that by clicking on the shortcut, which is the letter T on the keyboard. This shortcut is for the trim 1 command. This will trim the first entity selected to the second entity selected. So I'm going to hit the letter T on the keyboard. I'm going to left click this line and then left click the horizontal line. Again, I'm going to left click that line and then left click the horizontal line. Remember, the second click is always the target. That looks great, so I can hit the escape key on the keyboard. So we're going to be using this line to apply the toolpath. It really makes this command much easier to execute. All right, so let's head over to the command manager and let's go into our lathe toolpaths. From here, we're going to select the parting cycle. First thing we need to do is select that line that we just created. We can do that by taking the cursor and left clicking. Once we've done that, 1CNC brings up the very first dialog box, and this is where we can define our tool. To do this, we need to select a tool from the tool library. You can access the tool library by left-clicking on the tool graphic or left-clicking on Tool Changer. Once we're inside the tool library, we're taken to the Recent tab. This shows us all the recent tools that were used, and we certainly can select one of those. However, for this, let's click on the Library tab, and then we're going to select the Parting Tool category. For this part geometry, let's use this very first tool. I'm going to left-click that and then click OK. Once we've done that, 1CNC selects that tool, and we can see the tool parameters down here. Let's put the tool in turret position number 5. We don't need to worry about the tool offset, as 1CNC is going to use the same value as our turret position. Don't need to worry about coolant and work offset, as the post-processor will take care of that for us. For feed rate, we can go inches per rev or inches per minute. For this example, we're using inches per rev, and I'm using 5 thousandths. For spindle speed, I'm going to be using RPM, and I have this set to 500. Don't need to worry about spindle direction, again, as 1CNC will take care of that within the post-processor. This looks good, so let's click Next to that. The next dialog box gives us our clearance styles. Typically, you don't need to change these. This is how the tool is going to move after the machining operation. Again, 95% of the time, you can leave this just set to no move. We'll click Next on that. Now for roughing style, there's two different options. We have Standard and PEC. For this, I'm going to use Standard. Now cut placement, this determines the placement of the tool relative to the geometry we selected. Now remember, we selected that vertical line. So we want to make sure the tool's on the left side of that. So to do that, we're going to make sure we have left selected. For part settings, we have X clearance and entry amount. Why don't we first take a look at entry amount? Entry amount is where the tool is going to start feeding before the end of the selected geometry. So for entry amount, if I have 50 thousandths, that means the tool is going to start feeding 50 thousandths from the very beginning of the line that we selected. 50 thousandths is probably fine for this example, so I'm going to leave it alone. X clearance, that's the value in which the tool is going to wrap it to in front of that 50 thousandths. So if I have this set to 200 thousandths, the tool is going to position itself so that it's 200 thousandths away from this 50 thousandths entry amount. So we're going to wrap it down 200 thousandths, start feeding 50 thousandths away from the beginning of the line, and continue feeding along. Now the overcut amount, that's how far the tool is going to go past the end of the geometry. In other words, past center line in this example. So for this, for end amount, I'm also going to type in 50 thousandths. We'll take a look at reduce final return and back off amount in the next example. But for now, let's just leave these parameters as they are, click Finish, and let OneCNC generate the toolpath. Very good. Now, why don't we preview this? I'm going to head over to the NC Manager, and I'm just going to right-click on the lathe parting cycle. And for this, we're going to select Preview Toolpath. Here we can see the tool has made a rapid move of 200 thousandths and then started feeding 50 thousandths away. The rapid move is designated by the red line, so there's 200 thousandths rapid, and we're starting to feed 50 thousandths away from the beginning of the line. We're going all the way to the end of the line and going past another 50 thousandths. That looks great. Now let's take a look at some of the other parameters. Let's exit out of Toolpath Preview, and let's edit our lathe parting machining operation. I'm going to right-hand mouse click and select Edit Operation. We don't need to worry about the first dialog box. Let's leave this exactly the same. Let's click Next on that. We're going to leave our clearance style the same. We'll click Next on that. And now let's take a look at back off amount. Back off amount is how far the tool is going to pull away from the material along the Z-axis. So if I were to put in, let's say 50 thousandths, that means that after the tool has performed the cutoff, it's going to move away from the material 50 thousandths. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to preview the toolpath, right-hand click, preview toolpath. Our tool comes down, and notice that after it's performed the part off, the tool moves away from the stock material 50 thousandths and then rapids all the way back up to clearance. Very good. Let's take a look at another parameter now. Let's exit out of the toolpath preview. We're going to edit our machining operation. Again, we're going to leave the first dialog box alone, second dialog box alone, and now let's take a look at reduce final return. I'm going to set this to 200 thousandths. What this means is that after the tool has performed the cutoff operation, instead of rapiding all the way back up to clearance, it's only going to rapid up in X 200 thousandths. That is what the reduce final return is. So let's leave that as it is. We'll click Finish on that. Let OneCNC generate the toolpath. Let's preview the toolpath. Here's our feed down, pull away, and notice how the rapid move coming back up along the X-axis is only 200 thousandths. All right, let's just take a look at one more extra parameter here. I'm going to right-hand mouse click on the machining operation, edit operation, and what I'd like to show you is the PEC option. So if we select PEC, that means instead of taking just one pass to perform the cutoff, we can use multiple PEC amounts. For this example, I'm going to make the PEC amounts 300 thousandths, and I'm going to make the PEC retract 100 thousandths. That looks good. We'll click Finish. Let OneCNC generate the toolpath, and let's preview that. We're going to right-click and Preview Toolpath. Now you can see the PEC amounts of 300 thousandths and the retract amount of 100 thousandths. All right, that's it for this training video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.